Hello and welcome there viewers, Essence of Thought here as always. Now what I really wanted to do in this video was go over my own thoughts on the whole topic of free will, or to be more accurate, what we perceive as our free will. You see, whilst many philosophers seem to argue about how things should be, we seem to forget that maybe we should stop and think about how things really happen. When I look around at many models on how we decide and the question as to whether our choices are predetermined by the past, I find that many arguments out there are highly reductionist, which is to say that they often claim only a single factor to be involved. Whilst this may be true for more primitive species of animals, their responses to the environment around them being the result of pure biological determinism, I believe that for humans and other species of animals, there may be a dual biosocial system in place. This is due to them having developed specialized frontal lobes, specifically the prefrontal cortex, as well as other portions of the brain which all feed into the cognitive ability of the individual. Our cognition is what controls a number of mental processes, like reasoning, emotions, memories, and decisions. So how does this play into making a choice? Well, every individual retains abstract thoughts, which can be known as values, which are the construct of a number of cognitive functions in place. These values can be attained throughout your life, starting off in a basic manner in which the experiences we have as an infant are processed by our innate biological disposition. Later on, the balance of these values becomes more advanced as the values cross over, affecting the intake of new ones as well as the loss of old values like a snowball effect. An example of this is when we teach our children to share. We often instill this value in our children by rewarding them with praise or even material items, which is viewed as positively by early values, whilst on the other hand we may punish them by telling them off for not sharing or take the item from them, which is viewed negatively by early values. But now let's get down to the actual decision making. Whilst in some cases we can react to a situation in an instinctive manner, often to sudden changes in our environment which kick us into fight or flight, in the majority of cases we pause to decide what to do, even if only for a barely noticeable moment. It's this moment that has become the topic of such contention between many groups. When it comes down to how we make our decisions, choices seem to be driven by these values that we've managed to gather so far. A good analogy to demonstrate this would be an individual on a diet. So here we have Diane and a slice of cake. Now Diane really likes cake and her biological impulses are telling her to eat as she's hungry. Yet these are not the only factors in place. When Diane thinks about it, she takes into account more than her immediate values, looking at them from a wider scope. Two values that come in now are both her health and her image. Now Diane isn't that self-conscious, so her values based on image play a small role. Yet there's been a number of heart-related problems running through her family, which has made her really conscious of what she eats. If the combined value of her health and image are stronger than that of her impulse to eat, then she will make the decision not to. Yet, if these values are lower than the urge to eat the cake, she will eat the cake. That's not to say that these values are the only things taken into consideration. A way that she could get around to eating the cake, even though she still values her health, is through the process of neutralization. E.g., I'll eat the cake now and tomorrow I will go for a half-hour run. This is possible thanks to the cognition being able to reason. On top of this, there are physiological factors that can also determine the outcome. For example, alcohol levels or sudden surges of emotion. The chemicals found in both situations can lead to cognitive impediment, meaning that you may not take into account all of the factors you normally would, leading to Diane to just focus upon her impulses and drop her thoughts around health and image. So once you take into consideration all factors, impulses, values, and physiological factors, and the extent of each, the process of choice becomes a system, a mathematical equation with a predetermined answer. You can change or randomize the qualities of the equation, yet the outcome will always be determined by the input. This is important when dealing with the argument from quantum mechanics, the idea that somehow random fluctuation leads to the existence of free will. This argument is only replacing one type of determinism with a sort of quantum dice of fate, making the individual no more free than a piece in a game of Dungeons and Dragons. The difficulty is in being able to measure and quantify each aspect of this process, currently out of our reach, leading us to enter the grounds of the butterfly effect, a segment of chaos theory. The implications of this are that microfactors that go unobserved or unmeasured by us result in significant differences later on in the system. The name was coined by Edward Lorenz, in which he used the theoretical example of how a butterfly flapping its wings somewhere could have severe predetermined effects on the formation and severity of a hurricane elsewhere. It's these factors that can make predictions on hurricane paths and severity so difficult, just like predicting decisions. We all have the capability to predict what a person's actions will be. We can do this through observing their facial expressions, tone of voice, environment, and our preconstructed notions about their personality. It's just the degree of certainty that's the real issue in this case. The hurricane is much like the mind in this equation. Many values such as wind speed, water temperature, humidity, playing a role in the overall outcome, yet in no way do these storms retain any sign of free will. So to merely assert free will due to our current technological incapability is not a valid counterargument. So those are my thoughts on what we perceive as free will and how it occurs. And that's all from me in this video. But I'd like to leave a question for my viewers to post their responses down below in the comments. If free will does exist, and your values do not determine the outcome of your actions, what does that mean for your moral values? This is Essence of Thought. Thank you all for watching. Out.